How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another video. I'm going to get straight into the point here. This is our client Jordan, and Jordan went from, sub $10,000 a month in total volume to completely changing his offer, transforming what he sold, following our sales and marketing ideas, and selling over $85,000 worth of services in a single month, the immediate month after investing into getting our direct support. So if you want to emulate, Jordan's results, watch this whole video in full, soak up his wisdom, and learn from, exactly what he's doing. It's gonna be a really valuable video for you to, like all of our client reviews, watch the entire thing. And I don't just say that just to increase watch time. That is definitely one of the reasons why I say it. The other reason is because, you can either try and do it yourself, or you can learn directly from the people that have done it before you. And if you're serious about growing your business, but you can't focus on a 20 or 30-minute video about somebody that sold $85,000 worth of services in 30 days, then to be honest, that's probably why you can't grow your business right now, or you're struggling to grow your business, or you're stuck at the level that you're stuck at. It's because you can't focus on getting the answers for that next stage. So I want you to soak up this entire video in full, and look, if you want direct support from myself completely for free, no questions asked, as well as my entire coaching team and some of our successful clients, our free Facebook group is linked in the description of every single video moving forward, and I want you to go join and introduce yourself and share where you're from, what your business is doing currently. If you have a business at all, if you're a total beginner, say that as well, and just ask some questions and let us help you and serve you instead of our completely free Facebook group. I go live in there every now and again answering some questions. We've got a lot of our top clients in there helping you out. It's gonna be a really valuable resource for you for completely free. You don't have to spend a single dime, and we're gonna help you grow your business, coaching you directly alongside you. So join our Facebook group using the link in the description below. Otherwise, enjoy this YouTube interview with my client, Jordan Godby, who is absolutely killing it the first 30 days into his investment with us. All right, Jordan, welcome to the channel, man.
Thanks, dude. Good to be here.
Absolutely. You've had an absolute hot streak of a 30-day period in your business, and I'm excited to talk about it, dude. It's funny, when you first joined the consulting blueprint, we had, the onboarding call and sort of kicked you off. And then I was like, I think you need to just work with me one-to-one. So I just very boldly said, just make the upgrade, let's upgrade to our mastermind level. And that resulted in a pretty crazy growth period for you. And I'm really proud to say that. I'm really grateful that you made the decision after thinking about it for a couple of days to jump. So walk us through, what's happened in the past 30 days. And just for the viewer, I like to run this in two parts. The first part is just the very tangible things that have happened in his business, just so you understand all the numbers and exactly what's happened. Then immediately after, once we get past the clickbaity stuff, we're going to get into the meat, exactly how it happened, what he did, what he learned from us, or maybe what referrals we gave him, or whatever happened to cause this growth spurt. So, balls in your court, Jordan. Tell the viewer kind of what's happened.
Yeah. So when I first joined, I had just made the decision a couple months prior to productize my service and really go all in on like one offer. So to help people, help experts and coaches create communities. But I wasn't super solid around that. And I was selling it for anywhere from $3,500 to $5,000 as just like a one-time project, kind of fee. And so in that first call talking with you, you had really just given me a lot of ideas and inspiration around how to sell the offer better and how to add a lot more value. And it was, a mixture of things. It was like copywriting stuff and psychological and like what that customer actually wants. They don't want like a community or a software or whatever. They want like a thriving audience. They want a thriving customer base that will buy anything that they release at any price point, just creating like fans for life and a lot of that kind of thing. So it was helpful to hear about your perspective. And then I think tangibly, like one of the biggest outcomes from that was deciding to triple my price. So I went from thinking $5,000 was, kind of expensive or high ticket. And then out of our first like meeting or two, immediately started pitching it for $15,000. And part of it was I didn't just triple the price and that was it. I did add more value and I rounded out the offer. So part of it was like we build it and set it up, but then what you really need is the engagement and the ongoing part of actually how you make your community run and thrive and grow. And what I found was that was the piece that was missing for me. And so once I added that and tripled the price, people didn't really push back at all. And literally when I would give the pitch at the very end, they would say, "Oh, that's fair. Yeah, that's a good price. Sure, let's do it." And I was so surprised. Like, you think, because they don't know that I'm coming from previously doing a similar thing for 5K, but they're just like, "Yeah, it makes sense. Let's do it."
Yeah, it's so sick. And then didn't you have a client that like wanted like 2 tickets, and so you said, "Yeah, I'll give it to you for 25K," right? Didn't that happen?
Yeah, so I almost thought she was joking just because I had just tripled the price. So to me, it's like I'm thinking, is anybody going to want to pay for this, higher price? And so I get on a call with this lady. She's a lawyer, and we're talking about this idea, and I'm showing her the community stuff, and it's great. And I give the pitch, and she's like, "Cool, let's do it." But actually, I have another idea for another community, so I want two of them. And I was like, are you serious? And she said, yeah, what's the price for two of them? So
That's awesome.
I ended up knocking like a few bucks off. And so instead of 30K, we did it for 25K. So that was my first 25K sale, which was just amazing.
That's insane. Yeah, it's really cool to see. Like, I think you came in at this point where again, it's very similar to, there's a segment of our audience and like a segment of the viewers who are listening right now where they know that they've got authority. It's just like A, the sales process of like, where do I even find these clients? B, like understanding how to handle those calls in a way that like supports your price tag. And like, you don't, understanding at the point in the call when you drop the price, how to do it in such a way where it doesn't, you're not sabotaging that. I remember back when I was getting started, like I would drop, yeah, it's 20 or it's 30. And I would almost immediately start justifying it instead of just shutting up and letting the prospects sit on that and think about it. And then I'd lose the sale because I just didn't approach that right. So it's been really fun seeing you just like so quickly elevate. Besides the things that you've shared so far, what else do you think was a catalyst for it? Do you think it was like, I don't know, maybe it was an internal thing where you just were legitimately ready to make a change? Was it a external thing of like, okay, now that I have this sales tip, I'm going to practice it? Or was it a mixture of a lot of different things? Like, I'm just trying to get to the core,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for me, I think it was a combination of things where I have been generating experience in the industry and on my own as a consultant. I've ran multiple marketing agencies, and I was really looking for a massive change in my life, and doing the done for you consulting and agency services business it was okay for a while, but it had a lot of problems. Like it just wasn't scalable, at least the way that I was building it out. And so every new client that I added just added tons more work onto my plate until I hit that ceiling very, very quickly and just wasn't able to grow. And I didn't really want to hire like hundreds of employees and do it that way. So I needed to figure out how to completely change my business model. And so that's why I went with productized services and really just saying, I just do this one thing and trying to find the right people that need that one thing. Because before I was really doing just like custom bespoke, helping anybody with anything kind of problems, because I was so skilled and experienced in all of digital marketing. So websites, email, paid ads, like copyright, it's just everything. And so I felt like I was never really making a lot of traction, and I wasn't doing things that became repeatable and scalable and able to like automate and even like bring in people to help me. So I was having trouble making that leap across. And I think the other thing that I realized was in my previous business, I never really had to do much sales. And there was a couple of reasons for that. One was that I was ranked pretty high for Cincinnati SEO. So I originally started as an SEO company or SEO agency, and my site was like number one if you searched Cincinnati SEO. So people would literally just email me, say, okay, well, you're number one, so you must know what you're talking about. How much does it cost? Let's get started. So there was like no sales process pretty much. And because I was working with these people for long-term retainers, I would fill up with, 5 or 6 or 7 clients. And then basically like I'm full. And if I ever lost one, I only had to add one more. And that might only happen a couple times per year. So one of the things I heard about you is just like doing, 1,000 sales calls on your own. And I'm just thinking like that number is incredible. Like I probably haven't done 1,000 sales calls in 10 years. And you were just grinding them out at such a high volume and high velocity. So in this new model, I knew I needed more help around sales and just like the structure and the flow and how to actually go about it, because I didn't really have much of a process. It was just like, we have a cool conversation, and then at the end, hopefully they buy. And that was pretty much it. So I took some of like the things that you had showed me, and also working with some of your coaches like Jeremy and some of the sales training, and just immediately started applying that to every next call that I had. And it worked really well.
Super sick. That's super cool. What were some of those things? I'm curious. I'm sure the viewer is going to ask like what you applied to the calls.
Yeah. So just like knowing that it's like in a movie, like if the viewer is unaware, but there's like three acts, and there's like the introduction, and there's the conflict or whatever, and then there's the resolution. So like with your process, some of those things of like how to open up the call and set the tone right away, so that you are controlling it, and you're controlling the pace, and you're controlling like how things work. But even some of the subtle psychological things that I ended up asking about, like, why do we ask, are they ready to get started? Are they ready to dive in? Or are we ready to like move to the next part? Because you're giving them permission. It's like you're giving them control over the process, so that they don't feel that you're being like aggressive and overbearing and just trying to like get them to the end and get them to pay you money. You're really just trying to help them figure out if this is a good fit for them or not, and if we are both a good fit for each other. So I liked that, the way that you guys approach that, and it just made it really easy, because I have done this a lot. I've had hundreds of clients like over my career, but this helped me to just like very quickly have a playbook to go to and work on getting better at that. And
Mm-hmm.
just some of the main questions, like starting out about like what motivated you to jump on a call today, so that I could hear like what their main problem was. So those were some of the things that were helpful. And even some of the things towards the end, like some of the people, I realized that not a lot of people would even ask for the price. Like it would take a while, and getting them to like try to pull it out of me almost. And then one of the things was like saying, yeah, would love to like tell you the details about the program, how it works and how much it costs and everything. But before we do that, do you think that everything we've gone over today fits your need and would actually work for you? Or do you think there's anything that would, not fit your scenario? And that was a really cool question too, and get people talking and saying like, no, I think this is actually exactly what I need. And from what you've showed me, this is exactly what I want. Like, okay, great. Well, here's how it works.
Yeah.
We go through this process and it's 15K.
It's almost like they're giving you permission to pitch them at that point.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Yeah. That's super sick. Yeah, it's really cool. That was one of the things that stood out about your situation. And I think that made you such a great fit was like the sales muscle. Just hearing that you'd run this business where it was just so easy to, replace a client, and it didn't really require a nuanced, long, conversation where you're really trying to understand the psychology of the buyer. I'm curious, how many calls have you had over the past 30 days, and how many did you close? Because you did 85,000 in sales, you said, over the past 30. So I'm just wondering how many calls that was and how many closes that was, just to get a ratio out of you.
Yeah. So we did about, I think it was 10 to 12 sales calls that I did, and closed 5 of them.
Solid. So about like a 35% rate there, just about.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm in that like 30, 35.
It's good. It's a great rate, dude. It's a great rate. Yeah, 30, 35%. I mean, now I mean, obviously you've got a lot of client work to do, even though it's a lot of coaching, which I'm sure is very exciting for you, that like you brought in 85,000. Now all you got to do is just hang out on some Zoom rooms and give great ideas, which is, it's the best feeling.
Yeah. And I've always done the consulting part. So that comes pretty naturally to me. And to be honest, I've never really thought of myself as a coach. And that might be one of the areas that I'm different than in some of the other people in your program, because I've always been more of that consultant, agency, done for you services kind of person. And so what I'm doing now, my offer is really a hybrid. So it starts with like consulting and maybe coaching up front to actually help maybe a coach or an expert or course creator understand the transition from how do they go from how they're delivering value right now to their clients, which might just be exclusively through an online course or through one-on-one Zoom coaching calls or something else. And what does that look like to transition it over to a community? Because the major switch is that now they're going to be doing things at scale. So they're going to be doing like group coaching calls instead of one-on-one coaching calls. And they're going to be able to have different membership tiers and layers and maybe subscriptions. And those might be things that they've never had before.
Mm,
So we start with that, but then the second phase is actually building all of the community and then putting all of their content in there. So me
mm.
and my team do that completely for them, like white glove service. They literally just come back like a week or two later, and the community is perfectly done, polished, ready to go, and they're ready to launch it and bring in all of their customers or like start their marketing campaigns. And then the last part is like more coaching and consulting them again on like, now that the people are in there, what do you do to actually keep it running and going so that people are engaged? Because they're not just going to be engaged by magic or automatically. You've got, as the leader, you're leading this tribe and this community. So like, what are the things you need to do on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis? What are the activities? How do you make that place a really like high value and interactive environment?
Solid. Yeah, it's like what we've built with the consulting blueprint. You know, we have such an in-depth community there, and I think it's a neat. Like that's why I think when you came on to working with me, I was like, look, as somebody who has like almost 400 high ticket buyers, it's like here's what I think you should do. And so I'm glad that that resonated. And I wasn't even aware of your delivery process there. So that's actually kind of it's a brilliant process you've got. And so, you know, when you were selling it for 3,500, I'm curious what you did at that point versus what you do today. Because you said it wasn't just a price raise, it was also some adding some elements of value. So I'm almost trying to like recall what input I gave you at that point, but I'm curious what the difference is between 3,500 and 15, just from a delivery standpoint.
Yeah. So one of the big things that I wanted to change was to not necessarily be responsible for their success.
Mm,
And so what I mean by that was, before I was doing a lot of like running pay-per-click ads for clients and running SEO campaigns for clients. And so they expected a certain ROI or a certain type of result that we would generate for them. And no one actually has full control over that, right? Like I could be a
mm,
great SEO or whatever, and Google changed the algorithm and then things just don't pan out. And
mm-hmm,
so that sucks. And so what I really liked about this new model was that I have like full control over my deliverables and building an incredible community that is primed and ready to go and integrated into all of their stuff, but it's up to them to actually make it go and make it
mm-hmm.
be thriving and successful and all of that.
It's like you're setting the
So
stage, but they still have to perform.
that's exactly right. So
Yep.
when I just had my like 3,500 to 5K offer, basically what I was offering was only the build process. So
Yep.
I was working with a lot of course creators who were on a certain LMS, maybe it was Teachable or Kajabi or Thinkific, and they wanted to add on community. And so some people just fire up community separate from their courses and they have two places. That is not a very good setup, because no student or customer loves to use two different apps and two different websites when you could just use one. So what
Mm,
I was offering was to integrate those two things together and actually migrate all of their courses into the community. So they had community and courses all in one place. So it was
mm,
just a very manual, project based kind of thing where it's like, all right, give me all of your credentials. Me and my team will go in, we'll download all your content, we'll load it all over here, we'll set up some more community spaces, and we'll hand it back to you. And I remember saying, and then we wish you luck. Like that was
mm.
it. Like we're hands off. Like it's all on you now. Good luck. I hope you can make it successful. And
That's
so
cool.
now the difference is we're actually going to also hold your hand all the way through like the getting on stage and performing for the first like few weeks, so that they really feel comfortable and get a feel and have all of their questions answered, and they feel supported, not that they're just like left hanging. But now it's almost like we're going to guarantee that you're going to have a thriving community as long as you actually follow through and implement the playbooks and the templates and the checklist and all of the stuff that we give you to make it super easy for you to just like grab something, copy paste it, and go put it in there, instead of trying to like come up with what should I talk about or how do I engage with my audience. We're just going to make it super easy for you. And so I feel like that kind of closed the whole loop of what they're actually trying to achieve. They're not just trying to have like a different software platform. They're trying to get more interaction from their customers. They're trying to learn more about them. They're trying to serve them better. And they're also trying to save time while they're doing it. So they're trying to do it more at scale. So that's the kind of big value that we are providing. Like if you are a coach that is mainly doing one-on-one coaching, that's a fundamentally not scalable business model, right? So you can only scale up to however many hours a week you're willing to sell. So then the next phase would be like switching from one-to-one to group. But then if you want to keep thinking about scale, you could sell a private community, right? And so private community gets thousands of people access to you and your brain and your customers and your audience, and being able to drop like pre-recorded videos every week or your course in there provides a ton of value. And now you actually have a value ladder that people can get in at the lowest level, like just having community. Then they can move up to group coaching calls. Then they could move up to one-on-one coaching calls and maybe like a mastermind. So it just gives a coach so many more options and ways to think about how they want to grow their business and how they want to scale over the next years, instead of just like, I just do these one-on-one calls over Zoom all day long and that's it.
Got it. Got it. All right, dude. Well, cool. I feel like we dug into your offer a good bit. I feel like, maybe the viewer kind of understands exactly what you sell. If you were to sum up the difference between, before you joined and where you are now, just into a few major bullet points, what would you say those things are? And then after that point, maybe you can just give some advice to people who are in a similar position to yourself, where you had an offer, but it wasn't quite what you wanted to sell. The money wasn't coming in the way that you wanted it to. Maybe your advice to them as well. So part one is, what are the major things that we helped you achieve in the transition? And then part two is, what your advice would be.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that I got help on was mindset. And I know a lot of people talk about mindset, but I'm just learning more and more how incredibly powerful it is. One of my favorite quotes that I've loved for like 20 years has been from Henry Ford, where he said, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. And it's like, it all starts with you and what you believe. And if you don't believe it's possible, if you don't believe you can do it, then you're guaranteed to not be able to do it for sure. So I've been like, it's been something that I don't know if I want to say struggled with, but like, because I hadn't yet achieved it, right? You have to believe something that you haven't yet achieved and seen. I just really wanted to achieve it. I knew I had the things in me. Like I knew I had the skills, the experience, the desire. And for me, it was like right place, right time. I just needed a little bit of help connecting some of those dots and getting over those hurdles, which is why I reached out to you. And I'm just thrilled with like how fast that happened. So that was a big one. The other thing was like the offer. And I think you really helped me to clarify and make the offer a lot more valuable. And then the sales. So those three things are all tightly coupled together, right? Like sales is also kind of a mindset thing. And it's about confidence. And it's about like your tone and your vibe, and that you're not desperate and you're not needy. And it can be really hard because maybe in your real life, like you are desperate, but you just you can't come across that way. And, yeah, so those were big changes for me, and just getting that additional support. Yeah, and then advice. So I've had a few people reach out to me recently, just because like I've shared some wins in the community, and some people have seen what I'm doing. And one of the things, and I've had a few calls with those people as well. And one of the things that I've realized is a lot of people are super young and super early on their journey. And like this one guy was saying, yeah, I'm just like not making it yet, and I want to charge 15K. And I was like, okay, cool. So how long have you been doing this? How long have you been grinding and trying to make this thing work? And he's like, yeah, like 4 months. Is that a long time? And I just kind of like laughed, and I'm like, dude, I've been doing this for 10 years. Like, no, 4 months is not a long time at all. And I think with the internet too, there's always this like trying to get rich quick sort of, aspect that a lot of people are really interested in. And something that I've learned about the internet, like, yeah, there are scammers and there are people who can get rich quick and whatever. Like, I'm not trying to be one of those people. I'm trying to build a real, legitimate, lifelong business and career. There's really nothing that different about doing business on the internet than doing business in real life. You're right. Because we're just human beings working with other human beings. You create value, you create an offer, you get someone to buy it, they give you the money, and then you deliver the work. Like I could do this face to face with people. It doesn't require the internet. I just like the internet because I get to work with anyone, anywhere in the world.
Totally.
So yeah, it's like, if you're really new at this game, like you can't just grab the hot thing like Facebook ads and then start trying to like make tons of money. You should actually become really good at the thing that you do. And
Mm-hmm.
so maybe you need to, grind and get a bunch of clients for a year or two and actually get really good skills and really good case studies. And yeah, I don't want people to believe that you can learn a trick or you can learn like a sales technique and just start making tons of money if you're not actually an expert, if you're not actually really good and can deliver the things that you say you can. So that takes time and you can't really rush that.
Yeah, it's really good, dude. It's really good. So it's almost like, the real value that we brought to the table isn't even like we didn't shortcut the experience curve because you just can't do that. What we did is we helped you see opportunity that maybe you didn't see in your own business. And we just kind of helped you notice some low-hanging fruits that you didn't have the perspective to see at the time, which is, one of the ways that I've described to my team, what we do. So yeah, that's some great input. It's some really good input. Like, even myself, like you said it earlier, it took over 1,000 sales calls. Like the reason why I'm able to help you so deeply with your sales is because it's like, I took 1,000 sales calls,
Right.
and honestly, the game gets easy once you put those reps in, both to succeed in doing it yourself, as well as to teach other people to do it. It's a really hard process to shortcut, but if you have done it yourself and you have gone through the ringer and you've come out the other side with a result that other people might want in their own life or their business, then yeah, I will say that the experience of going through that ringer is long and it's drudging. Once you're at the end though, and you've got something of substance, putting it out into the market is, as we've seen, like a 30-day process. It's just that the 10 years you've gone through to get to this place. And I think that's some amazing advice, some amazing input. So
Yeah.
yeah, dude.
Thanks, man. It's like that crazy, like, iconic saying about it took me 10 years to become an overnight success. Like that's sort of how it feels. Like I've been building up all this raw material, all these ingredients. And I feel like you helped me to put them in the right order, in the right combination, in the right place. And it's sort of just like clicked together. But I couldn't just come up with all of that material and ingredients overnight. So that's what takes really a long time to develop.
It's very cool. It's good stuff, man. When I love the candid nature of these interviews too. It's just like, look, like we're not selling a magic pill, it's more like we have a program where we've helped a lot of people get to 6 and 7 figures, and some people, there's going to be a lot more work involved for them in making that happen, whereas with people like Jordan, the more notable, client successes, like, we had a client, Doug and Haley, they're like a husband and wife team. They went from 10,000 to 100,000 a month in 30 days. And it was a very similar gap. It was like they had an offer, but they didn't scale it, and B, they didn't know how to sell. So they'd never taken sales calls. They only sold a course version. It's just like, obviously they just need to learn how to sell, and they need to sell a group coaching version of it. And literally that one transition connects their business. So it just depends on the situation in such a massive way. So it's funny, like I'll put out the title of this video would be something like, $85,000 in 30 days. But unfortunately, a title that wouldn't get any clicks is $85,000 in 10 years. So I'm like, if I'm not going to call it that, but that's probably the reality of what we're dealing with. It's just that myself and our advisor are able to come in and help you piece those things together, which is still a very special thing. So yeah, dude. Well, thanks for your time. I think it's a really valuable interview. And to the viewer, please let me know in the comments kind of what you took away. And if you do decide to join the Consulting Blueprint or Scaling Blueprint communities, you'll be sure to meet Jordan. And sounds like you're doing a little bit of coaching for us, which I appreciate. I wasn't even aware you were taking calls. So I really appreciate the help that you're offering to the community. It's just very cool.
For sure, man. It's been awesome.
Cool. Well, thanks for your time, and see ya.